Hi, everybody. My name is Selene Luna, and I'm here with my co-producer, Cara Reedy. And welcome to our presentation. It is called the ADA. But before we get into it, we'd like to share a little bit about ourselves and how Cara and I became collaborators. So I'm going to throw it to Cara because you really sparked our relationship and our collaboration. So if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So I'm Cara, and I'm a producer and a writer, and right now I'm a program manager at a disability nonprofit. But before that, where I met Selene was I was working on a documentary for The Guardian called Dwarfism in Me, and we were covering what disability or what dwarfism meant in America. And we were looking for someone in the entertainment industry. And actually, my co-producer on that documentary was getting his hair cut. And we were struggling to find someone that could speak to the issues and really talk about, intelligently talk about what it means to be a dwarf in the entertainment industry. And his hairstylist was like, I know somebody, Selene Luna. And so literally that same day, Tom called me and was like, I think we have someone call this number. And I called Selene and was like, hey, do you have any interest? And she said yes. So we went out to LA, interviewed Selene, and I'm going to say this, but we've talked about this before when we were interviewing or going through the interview process, because we spent a couple days together during that process. And I was like, oh, I want to work with her. But I didn't say anything, but through the whole thing, I was like, I feel like there's some jokes that I have that will be good funneled through her. And like, I just feel like we have the same kind of take on things, but I didn't say anything and then came back to New York. So you pick up the story from there.
Sure. And really, that's exactly how we met. And I didn't preface our introduction by letting everybody know that I don't know if it's obvious. It's not obvious. I'm a little person. We're both little people, and we're both women of color. So, and I've been in the entertainment industry for about 20 years. I've kind of in showbiz, you gotta juggle, 7 projects because 6 of them will fall apart, and that's kind of it. So I'm letting you know that because I've kind of have dabbled in everything. I've done stand-up, I've done TV, film. I toured as a dancer, not anymore. And so it's been a real struggle for me in the entertainment industry. Being a little person, I had to, and I still do, have to fight really hard just to be seen as a human being. I don't have, in the entertainment, I don't really come across issues with my race as a Mexican or my gender as a woman. It's really, I'm a disabled little person. And in that industry, you're just not really seen as human or dignified. It's always, you're always kind of the butt of the joke in the story or the script. You're in a costume, you're a creature, your identity is never honored. So what I'm getting at is when I met Cara, when she came out to do this interview, I because of my experience in the industry, I've done a lot of press, I've done a ton of interviews, but this was my very first experience being interviewed by a little person who also happened to be a person of color. I had never connected with an interviewer in that way. And Cara was really probing and asking compelling questions that matter to me. It was the very first time that I had an interview experience where I didn't feel that I was a curiosity to somebody or a source of inspiration. And later I'll get into my sarcasm over inspiration. But it just felt like just a normal, dignified, professional interview somebody who really wanted to know about my experience and my point of view. It wasn't about what I can teach the interviewer, what I can teach the world. It's so it was so enlightening, and she was just so um, disarming and eloquent and so intelligent. And so throughout our experience shooting this interview for The Guardian, the entire time I was thinking, I don't know what it is, but how do I work with this woman? How can we come together to do something? I finally felt like I met, my people, really my person, this one person. And having lived my life without any sense of community, it was, anyway, it was a tremendous experience for me. And so, flash forward about a year later, during COVID, uh, Cara reached out and we reconnected. And then I'll throw it to you now.
So during COVID, I actually was unemployed in the very beginning, but one of my friends from high school called and he was like, I feel like we as Black people should start a media company. And I was like, whoa, man, that's a heavy lift. But then I was like, what am I doing? It's COVID. Let's figure this out. So we kind of went looking and I was like, what about Selene? Like, what do we do? Like, maybe we can do something with Selene. And so I reached out to you, Selene, and was like, you want to do something together? Because I have, like, even though I'm a journalist and have spent years at journalistic outfits like CNN, I also was sidelined there a lot, where inside the newsroom, they didn't really believe that I could tell stories, or if I could tell stories, they needed to be very limited because the public wouldn't take the stories from me. They wouldn't take me seriously. So out of that frustration, I was actually a theater major in college. I went back to improv and sort of sharpened those tools for comedy writing and stuff. And so when I met Selene, I was like, well, I know how to do this. Like, let's figure out how we can make something together, like with these other skills I have. And then we started meeting, and it kind of, I don't know, we went through a long process to get to where we are now with what we're working on. Yeah.
And we knew we wanted to and first of all, I gotta say, like, it had been a year since I'd heard from Cara, so I was so excited when I heard from her. I was like, oh my god, it's her! We're gonna do something. We're gonna do it's happening. And so when we came together, and this was in January of 2020, and we knew we had something to say. We knew we had something unique. And a message, and not a message of inspiration, but what can two little women who one Black, one brown, what can we do together? What meaningful work can we put together? And so we decided, we met a lot, had many Zoom meetings, and it boiled down to our mutual affection for our childhood programming that we grew up with, like all the 70s stuff, the Muppet Show, Sesame Street, Electric Company, all the things that really inspired us as children. And also there's such a kitsch element to it too. And a pop, we love all that stuff. It's really fun. And so how can we send a message to the world and still be engaging and fun, and make it something that anybody and everyone can enjoy while staying on message? And so we decided on creating a variety show inspired by 70s TV variety shows, which were so great. And but ultimately, what we are doing is building a platform for a talent with disabilities. What's been a silver lining with COVID is this Zoom culture. Now it's completely acceptable for everyone to work from home, to get your entertainment from home. Just everything happens from home on the computer, which has actually opened many doors for performers with disabilities. The reality is there are many great, talented people, entertainers who have, various disabilities, and they do not get the same type of performing opportunities in the real world. I mean, if you've ever been backstage in a theater, could you imagine trying to navigate your way backstage with all the amplifiers and the cords and the cameras and all that if you were in a wheelchair, if you have to use crutches, whatever the deal is? So, and I'm also a stand-up comic. I've been in so many venues where a performer in a wheelchair has no way to get on stage. So then you gotta hold the audience, hold everything, and in front of everybody, a couple of security guards lift the individual in the wheelchair onto the stage. And it's fine. They are, I guess, in essence, accommodated. The club makes it happen, but where's the dignity? And it's you lose a sense of independence when that happens. And so Zoom, being able to perform on Zoom, has been a game changer. And that's really the platform that inspired our project. So we can create something that looks televised and for Zoom, which means we open opportunities for performers with disabilities. And so that was a huge driving force.
Yeah, because when we first started the production company, we really thought about, like me and my other two partners, Craig and Lizelle, we thought about how do we make this feel like you're watching a show. And because what we were seeing in the pandemic is people were just they're like, we're going to do a comedy show. And then the audience would laugh and then they would miss the next joke because Zoom would cut out. And so we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to really make it happen with our various production skills so that this could be a real thing. And I think it does open the door for disabled people because they don't have to go anywhere and they can just do it from their house. And that's not to say that clubs shouldn't be building ramps and figuring it out. This is just what disabled people have come up with to accommodate ourselves, is this Zoom life. Like, let's not pat these clubs on the back for anything. I've been in clubs too when I was doing improv. I remember there's this one club that's very popular and a lot of people have taped shows in. To get on the stage, there's a step like that's almost like a foot and a half. And back when my knees were okay, which they're not now, probably because I was doing things like this, I would climb up onto the stage, and luckily there was a curtain so people in the audience couldn't see me like climbing. But then I had to brush myself off, stand up, and go out and perform after I've like hiked up a stage where they could have put some stairs, or not stairs, a ramp. Like, you don't need stairs, just put a ramp. And there was
enough for everybody.
Yeah, a ramp works for everybody. And there was space for a ramp. There just was. But it's just the thoughtlessness kind of, and that's also sort of leading into what our show is about. People think, well, the ADA, you can just call the ADA and report them. It's like, it's not that easy, and there's no number to dial. So what people end up having to do is sue. Like, if I wanted to make a stink about it, I would have to sue the club.
But who's paying your legal fees? Who's hiring this attorney?
Like, people are like, disabled people are already more likely, twice as likely as non-disabled people to live in poverty. I can't really like call my lawyer. Like, I don't have him on speed dial. I'm also not going to, call the Department of Justice. Like, that's just, maybe I just won't go to the club that night,
Yeah, it's just an example of the ongoing exclusion that we experience. And if we had equal accessibility, the perfect example is the ramp. Non-disabled people can use it just fine, and disabled people can use it. Why not just level the playing field? What's this equality holdout? I don't get it. And we're not asking for anything special, just access. That's it. But Zoom or creating a digital entertainment is the perfect example of how we have to be resourceful and reconfigure the world that we're excluded from and bend over backwards to try to make it work. And but so that's what we're doing, trying to make it work. So maybe we should get to what we're going to present. I mean, with the video we're screening today. So what we've done is we put together a 10, 11 minute segment, which this is just a segment from our full vision, which is a 30-minute variety show. Now we didn't want to just throw together a bunch of acts, string them together. Our variety show, we needed to have a structure. It needed a personality. And so I'm going to kick it to Cara because she's the one that came up with a brilliant idea for the format of our show.
So the Jerry Lewis Telethon is something that I think a lot of people remember from their childhood. And now Kevin Hart has reinvigorated the MD Telethon, which much to the chagrin of the disability community, because I don't know if you go back and watch old Jerry Lewis telethons, they're kind of super ableist and awful. And so the idea here and the premise behind it is, what would a telethon look like if it were run by disabled people trying to help non-disabled people with their ableism? And so that's where we got this show.
And what is most offensive, at least to me as a disabled person, but I think, I think a lot of our population agree. The most offensive thing about the Jerry Lewis telethons was that they were using pity to raise money. And there was no dignity or respect for the people they were raising money for.
No.
And then there was this strange dichotomy, because at the same time, it was the greatest entertainment. They had the best lineup of the most top-notch entertainers. So the telethon was thoroughly compelling, but then at the expense of disabled people's dignity. And Jerry Lewis was very condescending, and he infantilized the disabled individuals to their face live on TV. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty sick. And so that's what the basic concept of our show is, turning these telethons on their heads. And so this is a segment called Call the ADA. And we touched on that already, but pretty much as a disabled person, anytime you experience discrimination or adversity, people in your life just yell at you, well, just call the ADA. Why don't you just call? It's not a hotline. It doesn't exist. It's a stack of paperwork. It's not. And anyway, so
it's a law. It's a law 31. It would be like, call the Clean Air Act.
Yeah, just call them.
Call the Clean Air Act.
So maybe this is a good time to go ahead and play the video, and then we'll pick it up afterward. And we hope you enjoy it.
Call the ADA is brought to you by Congress and Papa Bush, but mostly by badass Crips who climbed stairs, sat in, and lobbied to get you able to recognize our civil rights. Now, here's the host of our show, the fabulous, glamorous, baddest Crip of all, Selene Luna.
Welcome, Ables. So glad you're here. This game is especially formulated for you.
For us!
Yes, Barb. For you, sweetie, and all the other poor Ables out there. Have you ever told your disabled friends to call the ADA thinking it was sound advice? Have you ever?
It's me. I do it all the time.
We know, Barb. Oh, we know. You do it more than most. That's why you're here, our special case.
I know.
Hey, Barb, guess what? You actually get to judge the game.
I do? I'm ready for it.
Well, don't get cocky, Barb. It's going to be tough. Two very funny disabled comics go head to head in 3-minute sets trying to get you to say, call the ADA.
Oh, this is going to be hard.
It's going to be very hard for you, Barb. Very hard. For the comics, it's a battle of wits. For Barb, it's overcoming lifelong ableism. We're really hoping we can fix her, and one day she'll learn to stop telling us to call the ADA.
I can try, but you know me.
We sure do, Barb. We sure do. Okay, remember, rules of the game. The magic tote board chooses a topic at random. Each comic gets 3 minutes to perform a set based on that topic. Barb gets to ask questions after each set. Remember, the winner is chosen by Barb, but have you really won if our resident abled is still advising you to call the ADA? Probably not, but that's ableism in a nutshell. Anyway, on with the show. Bring up the tote.
Oh, that was loud.
Ableism is loud. You should be used to it. Okay, Magic Tote Board, reveal the theme. Ooh, feminism. This should be very interesting.
We women have it so tough.
Yes, Barb, especially disabled women.
I mean, who's to say women in general have it rough?
Barb, this is why you're here.
For witty repartee.
For testing and research, you are living, breathing proof this show is essential.
Well, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Our first comic hails from Denver. Christy Buckley has made a name for herself by sharing the heart-wrenching and hilarious realities of being a woman with a disability. Take it away, Christy.
Oh my gosh, so happy to be here, you guys. I do have a disability, very sexy GIMP. Thank you so much, very sexy. If you don't know how cerebral palsy works, I'll explain it to you. At least for me, it's that my brain doesn't really talk to my legs, and my legs don't really talk to my brain. And I was just thinking the other day, I was like, what if I don't even have cerebral palsy? What if my legs just speak Spanish? We tried it. We tried it. What if I was like, Andale hermanos, and I just tap dance out of pray? That would be fun. Oh my gosh. It's not a very popular opinion, but I think it is my place to say, you guys, I don't think disabled people go to heaven. Yeah, sorry. The only way to get there's a stairway. So it's just like, ugh, that's not for me. No way. Gosh, they don't call the song, they don't call it Ramp to Heaven, y'all. Okay, they don't. And they'll just need to call me back when heaven puts in a handrail, right? Hit me back up when the Bible is ADA compliant. That would be great for us. Thank you so much. What else? People say a lot of dumb things to you when you're disabled. Had this couple come up to me. They were dressed really nice, had gold crosses on. It was a Sunday morning. You could tell they just came from church, really sweet people. And they were trying to be helpful, but it just came off condescending the way most people talk to people with disabilities. So like, oh, sweetie, did you hurt your foot? Are you okay? Ooh. I was like, no, I did not hurt my foot. Thank you so much for your concern. That's so sweet. I was actually born this way. So God hurt my foot. Okay. He's quite the craftsman. Tell him I said thank you. All right. And thank you guys. That's my time. I'm Christy Buckley.
Wow, that was really funny. Barb, what did you think of that?
I really learned something and so funny.
Do you have any questions?
Well, I was wondering if when the church people spoke to you, if you just misunderstood.
I'm just going to let that one sit.
Barb, what did we say about that?
Sorry, I just like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
not the point of the game. Also, not helpful in fighting ableism. Let's move on. Our next comic, you may recognize from Netflix One Day at a Time, and host of Rolling with My Homies. She's an actor, writer, comic, and advocate, Santina Muha.
I want to talk a little bit about feminism today because feminism is about equality, right? That's what I love about it. It's about balance. And I really believe in that. Balance is my core value in life. For example, because I'm in a wheelchair and no one can see my ass, I wear low-cut shirts so everyone can see my tits. And then I still get free drinks. So you see, that's feminism because it's fair. That's the thing, right? Feminism is supposed to be about equality, and that includes all women. We should all be respected equally. I remember one time I was leaving the gynecologist, and a pregnant woman and I both approached the exit at the same time. And we looked at each other like, oh shit, now what do we do? Like, who opens the door for who in a pregnant woman versus woman in a wheelchair standoff, you know? Luckily, there were two doors to get out, so we each held one open for the other because feminism shouldn't be a competition, right? Which woman deserves more? No, we should all have equal rights. But I'm wondering, like, where women with disabilities fit into it all. I mean, during the recent movement for trans women's restrooms equality, I thought to myself, all right, good luck, ladies. I mean, right? We have been fighting for that one for years. And if it doesn't affect other people, they're not going to care about whether you can use the bathroom or not. But the next thing I knew, people were marching all around town for trans restroom equality. How did that movement gain so much traction? Disability community. We need to talk to whoever did the PR for trans bathroom rights, okay? I mean, even Bruce Springsteen canceled a concert at a venue that didn't offer gender-neutral restrooms, saying no other group faces such a burden. Listen, I want equal bathroom rights for all. But do you know who's included in all? Me, I want to pee too. And I am not trying to take anything away from the burden that other people the burdens that other people have to face, right? But Bruce, okay, I'm from New Jersey, and so by law, I have been to several of your concerts. And why don't you try peeing in one of your Jersey Shore shithole bathrooms in a wheelchair next time? Because nothing says burden like having to ask a drunk stranger to carry you pantsless into a bathroom stall. Have them wait for you, by the way, while you pee. And then they carry you back out after you say, okay, I'm done. Just have to flush my dignity down the toilet. I mean, you know, people talk a lot about mansplaining, as I'm doing to Bruce here. But I think, like, I didn't, people talk a lot about mansplaining these days, but I didn't notice that mansplaining was a thing. And I think it's because I am just so used to being able-splained, right? And so that's just what I'm used to. I'm used to people explaining things to me that I have no friggin' idea what they're talking about. A few years ago, I bought a new customized wheelchair, but in the end, it didn't fit me correctly. It was too big. I like my wheelchairs to hug me on the sides, you know, kind of like medical Spanx. And the vendor, an able-bodied cis white male, I know you're not surprised, he spent hours trying to explain to me why I was incorrect, and it actually did fit me well. I mean, how does he know? What is his second job? He works at Victoria's Secret. I mean, just imagine, okay, a guy named Jeff who never had a titty in his life trying to sell you a bra, insisting that you need a bigger cup size than you do. And then you have to wear that bra every day for 5 years until your insurance company will approve you for a new one. Sorry, Jeff, but I need my wheelchair to suck in my thighs, and I need my bra to push up my tits. Anyway, thank you so much for coming to my talk about feminism.
Oh, that was great! Barb, I hesitate to ask, but do you have any questions?
I do have one. When you were getting fit for your wheelchair, are you sure you just weren't trying hard enough?
Oh, Barb, you're getting worse. Let's hurry up before you get Crip Twitter on our asses.
Sorry.
Okay, Barb, this is your big moment. Did either one of those sets bring up the urge to say, call the ADA?
Oh, I don't know.
Santina's wheelchair fit or Christie's Christian encounter? Barb, we have 10 seconds.
Oh, Just call the ADA.
It looks like you lost again. You didn't even declare a winner. You know what that means.
Oh.
We want to thank you for coming. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you learned anything, Barb, there is no ADA to call. It's a law that's 31 this year. Tune in next week when Barb learns to stop patting disabled people on the head. Hey, well, we're pretty proud of that. So we hope you guys enjoyed that as well. And all right, so it's so strange without a live audience. So anyway, sorry, clunking here. So I hope we conveyed the message of just kind of reversing, you know, what feels so horribly patronizing about these telethons.
Yeah.
And,
I think during my research, like watching the Jerry Lewis telethons, I think there was one instance that really spoke to me, where there was a little girl and her parents, they did a tape segment, and her parents talked about how horrible it was that when they found out she was disabled, and how they just were despair and blah, blah, blah. And it was just horrific. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And I was like, geez, like, and then they went to live with Jerry Lewis standing there. And they continue to talk about how horrible it was that their daughter was disabled while she was sitting there. And the dad was holding her, and she was old enough to like comprehend what they were saying. And she kept reaching for the mic because her mom was talking, kept reaching for the mic to pull it out of her hand. And the dad kept going, no, don't. And I'm like, she's trying to shut you up because this is horrible for her. She's 7 and she recognizes that you're being abusive verbally. So I wanted, like, when we were doing this, I wanted to kind of instill that kind of horrible condescension and just lack of awareness and lack of, just not even considering disabled people as people, and with feelings and thoughts. And I got lucky with my parents that they never did that kind of stuff to me. But I saw other people that had it, that, their parents were like, we just don't know what to, it's just so horrible. We just don't know what to do. And my mom and dad were like, nah, look, we're going to figure this out. You're going to do what they're going to do, maybe differently, but you're going to go and do it. And and how that changed my outcome considerably, because that's the approach they took from other people who did not have that. I just think I think we're still talking, like, the fact that Kevin Hart still is doing these telethons.
Yeah, I can't believe that's happening.
Right.
It's like in this day and age.
It speaks to where we are. We're still there. Like, the fact that a major media organization is like, what we need? Let's bring back that telethon. Let's bring back some more inspiration, guys. It's COVID. Let's bring some inspiration back. You're like, why are disabled people always your inspiration? It's always like, well, we're not as bad as them, so be happy.
Yeah, the whole thing with inspiration is that it's really when somebody is inspired by a disabled person, like tying their shoes, or whatever, running a marathon. It doesn't matter what it is. The most mundane thing. When somebody is inspired by it, what it really tells us is that you're using the word inspiration to cover your discomfort, and also your pity. All I hear is pity when somebody's inspired by me, and I get it a lot. I mean, I don't know. I have conflicting feelings because I hear it from people that I actually know and love, and I know they have love and respect for me. But so it runs the gamut. But ultimately, inspiration is really code for pity, and it's how the non-disabled person gets through the guilt they feel over their good fortune. And the truth is, if you're genuinely inspired, the true definition of inspiration means you have an exhilarating urge to do something positive. It's not a compliment, it's an action. So if you're truly inspired by a disabled person living their navigating, actually, a disabled person navigating the world that the non-disabled person has actively excluded them from, and then you're inspired because this person is navigating through the barriers you have built yourself. So if that's not inspiration at all, it's an extra. It's like kick me while I'm down. And so I have some analogies come to mind, but I think they're too dark. But ultimately, if you're truly genuinely inspired by somebody who's defeating their adversity, why don't you use your voice and your abilities to make sure that person does not have to navigate through your world? Just make it accessible.
Right.
Just even the playing field. That would inspire me. I would be inspired by Ables if they, did the work to make the world equally accessible for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's true. Yeah, I get, because I live in New York, and sometimes, back when my knees were good, I'd climb up a flight of stairs and somebody would come to me and be like, I'm so inspired by you. I'm like, could you be inspired and call the MTA to get some ramps? So that I don't have to do these stairs again. That would be more helpful than you stopping me in my day where I'm already late because I had to crawl up these stairs that the risers are too high because they were built in the 40s or whatever. And it just, I feel like non-disabled people kind of don't have any concept. A lot of them don't really have any concept of how much harder it is to live with a disability, and what they attribute it to is the disability. So they'll say, yeah, it must be really difficult. And it's like, yeah, it's really difficult because you guys keep building stairs. And like, it is really difficult because you build the counters so they're at your neck. And then you're like, come shopping. It's like, well, I don't want like to stand at the back of the store and scream like, I'd like the brisket plate. Like, I don't want to pull a chair. I had some friends once, we were taking a picture, and everybody else, obviously was taller. And so they were like, Cara, get on a chair. And I said, no. And they're like, no, get on a chair so, we can all, so it'll be easier to take the picture. And I was like, no. And they literally like, you're just knowing it. I said, yeah, I don't have to be in the picture. I'm cool with that. And so then everybody sort of bent over, and I was like, yes, see, this is easier for you. Just bend over. And then we can all take the picture instead of me in a dress, putting my legs up on a chair, climbing up while you all stare at me while my ass is in the air, excuse my French. And I have to embarrass myself instead of you all just leaning over. And it's just as basic as that. Don't make me do something that, climbing on a chair could be dangerous. It's not, but it could be, depending on your disability. when you could just lean over.
Yeah. I have the same feelings about, when you're hugging somebody, it's like, could you please bend down? I mean, I can't bend up,
Right.
and people are just standing there waiting for me to come hug their thighs.
Or
It's
their
like,
crotch.
yeah, it's demeaning. It's like, anyway, it's crazy. And but I do want to touch also on something that Cara mentioned earlier, as far as, it's physically exhausting and really challenging to navigate a world that is not accessible. I, One thing also people don't understand is how it's labor intensive. It's like, it's really physically grueling. And I have injured myself. That's why I'm not a dancer anymore, because I lived for so long physically forcing my body to adapt to a world that I don't have access to. It got to a point where I injured my body so much that I lost my ability to walk for about a month. And it took me a few years to recover. I'm fine now and all that, but I still have really intense pain that limits my movement, and it's all a result of what I put my body through just to be part of society, just to feel included, or to be included in any way that I could physically make it happen. So there's no reason to, add additional challenges, to our lives. And again, I can't say enough. Equal access for everybody means non-disabled people can access it too. Like, nobody loses out.
No.
It's, so and just to quickly, mention, back to the Jerry Lewis telethons. As a child in the 70s watching these programs, it instilled a lot of shame in me. When we used to watch these as a family, I used to sit there as a child, taking in all this crazy Jerry Lewis, like, patronizing, offensive stuff. And I would just privately sit there and think, oh my God, I hope my family doesn't think I'm one of them. Like, basically, the Jerry Lewis telethon, all it told me as a disabled child was that I'm a burden. I'm the worst thing to happen to my family. I'm the worst thing to happen to society. Now, I have to be grateful for, drunk and alcoholic comedians like Jerry Lewis to insult us nationwide on national TV. Like, the whole thing was excruciatingly embarrassing to watch. I was so embarrassed to be, identified as one of the kids that was being helped.
Yeah.
And so now with Kevin Hart doing this, and I don't know the network that's launching it, but they are perpetuating this for the next generation of children. We're in 2021. Could you imagine teaching this to a child today? And there's no excuse. There's been evolution and progress for every marginalized group. Why not the disability community? Why not us?
No, it's true. Like, we're 26% of the population, and there's a lot of people that do not actually disclose their disability or don't identify with the disability community. And so, but we are, like, this is per the CDC, we're 26% of the population. That also includes elderly people. So here's the thing. If you're not disabled now, you probably, you probably will be when you're older. And so all of these accommodations that we're talking about are actually useful for you later. Excuse me.
Take a moment, Cara. And so, I just took a glance over to the chat, and I see somebody asked, and we'll go ahead. Actually, if you want to ask questions, this is a great time for questions. If you want to type them into the chat, and then Amy and Nancy are going to help us navigate. But I did take a quick glance, and I see somebody there who's asking, what can I do as an individual? So what you can do as an individual are very actually small things that have a great impact. For example, you go to your favorite boutique to buy dresses, and it's not accessible. Like the door is super heavy. It's not an automatic door, or they only have steps to get into the store. Why don't you, you can ask the manager, what's up? Why don't you have ramps? Why isn't this accessible? You know, you can do that at restaurants. You can do that at any public place, the grocery store, anywhere you go. I have a girlfriend who is a wheelchair user. She had to miss 3 doctor's appointments in a row because every time she went to the doctor's appointment, the elevator was broken and she had no way to access the stairs and nobody to help her. And so she had to keep rescheduling a doctor's appointment, which is already a nightmare to get to in the first place. Had to keep rescheduling simply because she physically could not get to the doctor's office. The elevator wasn't working. So when you go into a building and you notice these things, or maybe just, you can do that as an individual, just start noticing. Be aware of your surroundings. Imagine the point of view of other people. Just, I think what the most powerful thing someone can do as an individual is navigate through the world through a greater perspective, someone else's point of view. Get outside of your own point of view and imagine navigating the world outside of your body in someone else's body. And you'll start noticing. It's alarming what you'll notice. You'll start seeing what little access we have. And so, again, just to reiterate, small business owners, huge corporations, wherever you do business, find out what kind of access they have. What kind of accommodations do they provide? You'll know immediately by just looking around. Yeah. Can somebody in a wheelchair do this? Can a little person reach this counter?
And also, you know, if you're when you're voting, if your candidate does not have a disability policy, call them on and be like, what's your disability policy? And if they can't answer that, that should be a huge red flag, because like I said before, I had a coughing fit. You know, you should be so lucky to age into disability. I mean, you will be disabled once you get to, like everybody, once you get to a certain age, you have a disability. You just do. And so if you're waiting until you have one, you've waited too long. You better start now, like talking to people. And the disability community during this last presidential election actually had a force and pushed. All of the candidates ended up with a disability policy. And it was the first time ever that they actually addressed it, all of them, the Democrats. And, but it took extreme effort. And some of those disability policies were awful. They were not good. And some of them were great. And Biden actually was one of the last ones to put a disability policy out, just so you know. So you like starting to be aware of like what we consider as a value. And if you're not asking your political representatives what they're going to do about it, then you are implicitly saying you don't value that.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be demanded. If you want change, go change it. Make it happen. We need your help. And just as Cara just said, you're going to need it too. And we do have a question here. Someone wants to know, what has been the best part of us two working together? Well, I'd like to answer, at least for myself, if I may, because it's been a profound experience for me working with Cara. And I talked about this in the beginning, but Cara is the first time I've ever met anyone in my entire life. I'm 49, you guys. And I know a lady's not supposed to tell her age, but at least I'm still at my birth weight. So trying to throw in some humor, guys. But Cara was the first time I ever met anyone in my life that I did not have to explain myself to. It was organic. We spoke the same language. I've never met anyone in my life who had the same experience as I had, navigating through the world. I've met other little people, but I'm sorry, we're two women of color. Race is a huge factor in disability as well. And so it was an experience that I just felt, oh my God, somebody I just relate to. And it's amazing what it does to your spirit to feel seen and heard. And that's what it's been for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, like Selene, I've never worked with another little person or another little person of color. Like, it just has, it's never happened. I grew up in St. Louis, and I was part of the Little People of America, which is the national organization, nonprofit that is supposed to gather all of the dwarfs in the US. And it was a very white space, especially in St. Louis, but it is in general. And so it didn't connect. I didn't connect with it at all, never did. And so it wasn't until my 40s, which is right now, and doing the Guardian doc, that I connected with any dwarfs where I'm like, oh, like I can hang with y'all. But with Selene, it was a little different because she's a woman of color and also a dwarf. So it was like we had some very similar growing up, like dads that were really intense, and you know, part of being doubly marginalized, like your parents, especially in America, are, if they want you to succeed, then they are super intense. Like there's this there's a myth about, like, I think Black and Mexican families that they don't push their children, and I'm like, well, you come to my house.
Yeah. No, my parents were old school, pushed, and an immigrant on top of that. So we were a guest in this country. So you better act right and do right.
Yeah, my family comes from, I have a long history of my brother was like 5th generation at Howard University, and both my grandparents on my dad's side had PhDs. So like we were taught about that in the very beginning. Like it was just a recycled like sentence. Well, you know what your grandparents did when they didn't have integrated schools. Your grandparents were the first to get PhDs in such school. So like you showing up with a C is just not really a thing. So it was constant. But I think there was a lot of connection through that. It's just we both have a really intense work ethic. That I think comes from our upbringing, but also from our disability, our shared disability, that we know we have to work harder if we want something. And I think we both are very motivated people to get what we want.
We have, yeah, absolutely. And again, as disabled people, you have to work extra hard to be seen as valuable. And so that's been instilled in us. So we just work really hard. And there's a question here, but also we have about 10 minutes left. So if you want to get your question in, we'd love to address it. But there's a question here. I'm wearing glasses, but I can't see. I need a new prescription. Okay, what are your future plans for your variety show and production company? How can we be supportive and getting more content like this in the mainstream media? Great question.
Yeah.
So, I think
you want to go?
Probably, okay, I think you can answer this
okay. So
more eloquently than I can.
Right now, like we're still workshopping. This was one segment out of a half an hour show, and we're still workshopping the rest. So I think it's going to be another couple months before we have the whole show kind of completed. And then we hope to shop the idea around to see if we can get it picked up somewhere. For as far as the production company that I have with my friends, we are a small production company that is run by me and another former CNN journalist, and Craig, my friend from high school, who is a marketing genius. And so we only produce things from marginalized communities. So you have to be from one of those communities, whether it's race or disability or gender identity. You have to come from a marginalized community. for us to work a show around you. And if you're multiple, even better. But yeah, so we're just working on, we did a game show where we premiered it at the Asian American Journalists Association. We did really well with that, and we're gonna revive that eventually. But yeah.
Great. And before we wrap things up, I do want to address one thing that it has to do with the question about how can people be supportive and help us get more content like ours into the mainstream media. And the first thing I would say as a little person in the entertainment business is I ask people to please reject all forms of entertainment that demean little people. And it's a very specific niche in the entertainment world. The way little people are portrayed in entertainment is unlike any other disability in showbiz. And I can't wrap my head around it, having experienced it for a couple of decades. I don't know where the disconnect is, where we are just not considered human beings. It's always the monster, the creature, something fantastical, but just not relatable ever, not in the realm of the world we live in. And it still happens. I'm talking Christmas elves, leprechauns, all that stuff you see on TV and movies. And so a great way to get us in a dignified light in the media is to reject the things that demean us. And that is just a point I wanted to make.
Yeah, and it honestly, for little people, they slip it in different places. So the movie normally might be fine, but then like The Wolf of Wall Street, okay, movie, but then in the middle they have this huge scene where they're all drunk and they're tossing a dwarf down the floor and everybody's cheering, and people still talk about that scene being one of their favorites. And so like if that's your favorite and that's what you've taken from it, and also what did it really add to the movie to put that in, like because that's not what the movie was about, so why did you add that? Yeah, but also I think we have one more question. It's Selene, where can they see you doing stand-up, and then where can we see the film? So I'll do the film really quickly. Film is called Dwarfism and Me. It's on YouTube. It's if you type in Dwarfism and Me, The Guardian, it will come up, but it's sort of everywhere.
Yeah, and it's great. I really encourage you guys to watch it. It's really well done. Bottom line, if you follow me on Instagram, it's Selene, SELENE_Luna. I always promote everything I'm doing there, but thank you for asking. All right, any other questions? Or I think that's about it. Yeah. So, well, I want to thank everybody so much for taking the time to tune in and support us. So again, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. I want to thank Nancy and Amy Harrington for allowing us this opportunity to share our perspective and our project. And I also want to thank my collaborator and co-creator, Cara Reedy, for creating something life-changing for us.
Thank you for signing on to it.
All right, guys, thank you very much.